for interrupting your soap opera for breaking news in the Patrick Kane investigation. The lawyer for the woman who accused him of rape is speaking for the first time about this investigation. This is what's happening right now at this news conference.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming. I want to thank everyone for doing their best to be objective throughout this process. And I want to apologize to many of the respected journalists whose request for information from me has fallen on deaf ears. I was doing my job, you were doing yours. And it was never my intention to comment or try this case in the media. However, during the course of this investigation, multiple leaks to the media have occurred. Leaks from law enforcement about the physical evidence, the DNA, the lack of Kane's DNA have all been troublesome, to say the least. Finally, yesterday was the most disturbing report of allegedly confidential information. It was reported yesterday, quote, DNA tests found DNA evidence of at least one person and possibly one or two more in her genital area, but no traces of any DNA from Kane. It was also reported that, quote, two unknown semen samples in Kane's victim's rape kit, close quote. The consequence of all of this has been to discredit my client in the public. And as concerning as this has been about the nature of this case, we have encountered a far more troublesome situation. This concerns the integrity of that evidence. Yesterday, the rape kit evidence bag was anonymously delivered to the home of my client's mother. We know this to be the evidence bag that once contained the rape kit evidence. We know this because the bag has a label on it. It contains my client's identity. It contains my client's birth date. It contains the location where the rape kit was done, and it confirms the nurse's initials who performed the rape kit. It is authentic. We have spent yesterday evening to the early hours of this morning conferring with law enforcement, former prosecutors, people that have worked at the lab, and ECMC personnel. It is the evidence rape kit evidence bag.
Holy fuck.
As you can see from the pictures, this evidence bag has been ripped open. The purpose of an evidence bag is to protect the items of evidence from tampering. The bag itself is even critical evidence to the chain of custody. It never leaves law enforcement or the district attorney's office. In my 30 years plus of being both a prosecutor and a defense attorney, I have never seen an evidence bag outside of a police lab, a prosecutor's office, or a courtroom, let alone find one in the doorway of a rape victim's mother's home. On behalf of my client, I will be requesting an independent law enforcement investigation by a separate law enforcement agency into how this breach could have possibly happened. On behalf of my client, we'd like to thank the person who anonymously placed the bag in the doorway of her mother's residence. But we would also like that person to come forward and cooperate with authorities as to how on earth this could have happened. At this point, I'm not going to have any further comment. My sole focus is to ask an independent law enforcement agency to investigate this so we can get to the bottom of it. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, you'd like to thank them for doing this?
No, so we can get to the bottom of this. I'm sorry.
No, before that.
I'd like to thank the person that that put it in, but I'd like them to come forward. Yes.
Thank them.
What do you think this does to the case?
It's significant. I'm not going to speculate. I can only say that the evidence bag was torn open. It is the evidence bag, and we're going to ask someone to look into it and not engage in speculation.
Tom, where do they normally store an evidence bag?
Evidence bags are normally stored at the CPS lab or at the police department or sometimes the district attorney's office.
How did your client's mom find it? Was the doorbell rang? Was there a knock? How did she discover this?
There was no doorbell, there was no knock. She came home for lunch yesterday and immediately called our office and brought it down, and we alerted the district attorney's office.
Was it on the porch right there? Was it in the mailbox?
Between the storm door, and it was folded up in a number of small squares, almost like it meant to be thrown out.
Was there anything in it?
Absolutely nothing in it.
Does your client question or reject the veracity of the source leaked information about DNA samples where they were found, so on and so forth?
Absolutely.
Not true.
Not true. Absolutely not true.
Can you clarify then what DNA was found so that we're on the record with the accurate information?
We don't know what was found where. We have an evidence bag that was ripped open. Something was either taken out of it or placed in another bag.
Do you know what was taken out specifically?
I do know what's normally in a rape kit evidence bag, the evidence.
Is there only one bag in a rape kit?
Normally,
Evidence bag for a rape kit?
Normally, they're the size of a grocery bag. They're quite substantial. They're sealed at the top, normally with the initials on them. If you look at those photographs, you can see that that bag was sealed and ripped open.
And Tom, I don't mean to be negative here, but were there other people with this young lady when she had her rape kit performed? And would they know the initials of the nurse? And could this be some type of a bizarre hoax? Did that cross your mind?
No, it did not. And we went to great lengths to authenticate that that is the evidence sticker, that that is the evidence bag. We confirmed it through the hospital yesterday, and we've had a number of law enforcement personnel come in.
What hospital?
This is no hoax. ECM's.
Where does the grand jury stand right now? Where does the grand jury stand right now?
Not in control of the grand jury, Mr. Sedita is, and at this point, we've been given no notice.
Now, beyond the question of chain of custody, this would seem to blow it apart. Something like
Correct.
this happening, and that would hamper a prosecution, wouldn't it?
No, we're hoping to get to the bottom of it. We're hoping to find out how this happened and who had the incentive to modify or tamper with the evidence and finally get to the bottom of it rather than have misinformation about semen in one's undergarment.
Now, who would you think would do something like that?
I'm not going to speculate at all. I'm telling this group that that evidence bag showed up at my client's mother's home yesterday, and it needs to be looked into very seriously.
What is your understanding of what happened on the night in question?
I'm not going to comment on what took place on the ninth question. It's not the purpose of this interview.
You all talk about settlement and all that. What's the intention of your client to move forward with settlement, prosecution? What can you clarify?
You know, I'm glad you asked that. I'm a criminal lawyer. Those who know me for 30 years, I have never settled a monetary case in my life. We know the family. They came forward and asked me to help walk their daughter through the very difficult process. And that's what I was there for. I don't even know how my name got in the paper, but I can assure you I'm the last lawyer in town you would go to settle a civil case.
Is your client still cooperating with authorities and willing to testify at a grand jury?
Absolutely.
Was there ever a monetary offer put on the table to your client to settle this case?
I do not know the nature of any monetary discussions between the parties. I'm not going to deny it or agree to it because I have stayed completely out of the mix, and I've only been there to help the victim in this case.
Would a settlement, would a civil case be in order after a criminal case? And do you think a criminal case is going forward?
We would hope very much that a criminal case is going forward. Again, I've never handled a civil case. I don't know if they come before or after.
What do you make of Kane's comments to the media last week denying that he did any wrongdoing?
He's entitled to his opinion. I don't know where that came from. Certainly he wants to put that out there. He can. What's most important is this is a case about physical evidence, and the rape kit evidence bag has been tampered with, and that's why we're here today. Anybody else can say whatever they want. That's the bag.
But Tom, you know as a former prosecutor that if you cannot show the proper chain of custody in an evidence, it may not even be admissible. So does this mean there may be no criminal prosecution?
No. Hopefully they get to the bottom of how this bag got opened, by whom and when, where the real evidence is, and it is established why anyone would have an incentive to tamper with a rape kit.
Has the district attorney confirmed that it is an evidence bag that is accurate?
We have sent photographs of the bag to the district attorney's office. We notified them. We have complete confidence in the district attorney's office that they'll be looking into it. But I can tell you, and you can look at the photographs and ask any of your own experts, that's a rape kit evidence.
Tom, can you qualify, we take it at face value that this is the rape evidence bag, and whether we talk about that or the leaks, people watching this in Chicago would be stunned. Can you qualify the bungling or what's going on here?
I don't want to speculate. I have obviously my grave concerns as to what's going on here. That's why we went public with it. That's why we're asking for an independent investigation by a separate law enforcement agency. Something seriously has gone amiss. Yes, I agree with you.
If you were looking for a surefire way rather to scuttle a prosecution, this might be it.
If you're looking for a surefire way to scuttle the prosecution, you may tamper with the evidence. Maybe some good Samaritan came forward and provided that to us to give us a tip to what's going on. I mean, again, I've been around a long time. I have a former prosecutor in this room with me today. He's been around for 30 years, and our 60 years combined, and never have we seen one outside of a courtroom, let alone show up on a doorstep.
Is the evidence still viable?
You indicated that people are trying to destroy your client's reputation. Tell us what she's been going through since making this allegation. How is she doing? How is she progressing?
Thank you, Dan. We had hoped, and her parents' concern was, in a rape case, the victim gets attacked. It's called victim bashing. It's atrocious. In this case, it has been absolutely devastating to my client. This is supposed to be a secret investigation. People in the media, and I'm not saying anyone here, have been discussing people's semen in her undergarments. She is absolutely devastated. This is a classic example why rape victims don't come forward in rape cases. This is the worst example of victim bashing that I have seen.
Is she still determined to push forward with the prosecution and cooperating?
She has always been determined. She remains determined.
Clarify this, so do we know if the evidence was processed accordingly in the criminal investigation? You get this bag, it's empty. Are you aware if any evidence at all was processed, and where is it?
A good question. What we do know is that the rape kit evidence bag, again, is authenticated, ended up in my client's mother's doorstep. After that, God knows what happened to the evidence.
And it was found yesterday afternoon when she came home from work? What time?
At 1:30.
At 1:30. Now, did she come out that same door leaving for work in the morning?
No, she did not. She went out the back door. It could have been there for a day and a half.
Do you think Hamburg Police has given Kane any special treatment because of his celebrity?
I'm not going to speculate on any preferential treatment based on celebrity. What I am going to say is that this is a significant development in this case, and we need to bring in the FBI or state troopers or some other law enforcement agency to find out who had that bag, who put it in my client's mother's doorstep, and why. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank you very much.
Are you giving that bag back or are you keeping it?
Would you turn it over to...
That is the lawyer for the woman who accused Patrick Kane of rape. These are significant developments, as he just said. We just heard from this lawyer that the rape kit evidence bag, or what he says he has confirmed to be the rape kit evidence bag, showed up on the doorstep of the alleged victim's mother, which would mean, if this is true, that the chain of custody was broken. He says the bag was torn open. This is, again, a significant development in this case. Patrick Kane's accuser's lawyer asking for an independent investigation.
Do you think Patrick Kane is going to be charged in this case?
I have no further comment, and again, that's up to Mr.
And you just heard from Mr. Iwano. He has no further comment about this case at this time. We will certainly be looking into this new development. Once again, the rape kit evidence bag. Patrick Kane's accuser's lawyer says he has confirmed that it is, in fact, the bag that contained the rape kit and that the chain of custody was broken. He says someone anonymously